All right, welcome to our Friday Flex. We're flexing our reflections for this week. As you know, week before last, we were talking about death. And so this is a 4-part series, so this is part 2 of 4. Just a quick update. The friend that I spoke about last video is doing much better. Actually got the okay to go home, signed her return home.
Release?
Yeah, release form.
Cool.
And so, so she's gonna be home soon. One of the things, though, that happened also is between that time since I went to California and I came back, there were multiple people who I've not directly related to me, but friends of mine who have friends that passed due to cancer. Mm-hmm. And so while on one end I was happy to see my friend be in a position where she can go back home, other people did not have that same experience.
Right.
And so it was like a bittersweet kind of thing, because in one sense, we're understanding that it's not like death is not a will it happen, it's when it happens.
Yes.
And so this idea, this concept of death, as we talked about in our previous video, is a very sobering concept, because quite often right now and on the other side of the world, there are many people.
That war or something like that's going on.
Yeah. There are many people that are losing their life. And while loss of life prematurely is never a thing to be celebrated or to be reconciled, it is understood that our time in life we're dying every moment.
Yes.
Even from a biological standpoint,
It's proof right there. I know this is a serious conversation, but I mean it's true.
Yeah.
Right? We have skin cells that they only last for so long, and it needs to be exfoliated. So I need to moisturize my hands, is what I was pointing out, that this is proof that, we're all going through this dying process.
Yeah, and the nails in the fingers, like they're growing, which means that, hey, you're dying. The hair, if some are graced to have hair, grows, and that's another process. No shots fired. I'm just saying,
I grow hair. I just like to shave it off every Friday so I can look crisp and clean and aerodynamic for everybody.
But to understand that we are
get a little more of that shine on.
Oh yeah.
There you go. Let my dome glow.
So yeah, but because we don't look at life in that term, because it seems morbid. It's like
right.
Dying at every second. What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Let's talk about something happy.
Yeah.
And the reality, even though we're dying at every moment, this is an opportunity to look at life from a different perspective. This is an opportunity to, when we're in and we're having experience, to fully have that experience.
Yes.
Because quite often we're multitasking. We're on our phone, somebody's talking to us, or we are reading something and the news is playing in the background, or so many things are happening simultaneously that we're not focused.
That's true.
And so when we're thinking about the topic of death, it's like, oh, now we're focused. Mm-hmm. Now there's attention being given. Mm-hmm. I was listening to I'm not going to name who it was. I don't agree with the person themselves and their ethics, but they were doing an interview, and the speaker said, "You disturb a lot of people," and he says, "Good." He says because when people are disturbed, that means they're paying attention. And he says most people live a life in which they are just mechanically going through motions. Everything, I got to do this at this time, or hey, I'm just gonna. It's just very, mechanical, robotic.
Robotic, yes, impersonal.
And so he said that when you have someone's attention in whatever fashion, generally through disturbance, then that forces them to think.
Yes.
And so death is one of the greatest disruptors or disturbers of our time.
Very true.
Because when death is knocking,
come in. I'm sorry.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, I'm sorry.
But when death is knocking, it's like Dead again. Yeah. Thank you, Preeti. So it died again.
Oh.
Yeah. So I recount this story. Yeah, it's this.
Oh, no. I got you.
Yeah. Okay, so hopefully you all can hear it. Preeti, does it sound good now? Yeah. Okay. I'll assume that the sound is good. All right.
Great. Okay. I'm gonna sit closer.
Yeah, that's it. Let's bump knees. So anyway, I'm not too close. So, all right. To kind of go back just a little bit since the sound went out. So the king was told that he only has 7 days to live. He goes in meditation, goes to seclusion, and he finds, instead of seclusion, he finds thousands of other mystical people at the bank of this river. And they're telling the king that we've come from all over the world, all over the universe, because we understood that there was a great conversation that's about to happen. And that within this conversation, people like yourself who are dying can really relish what the goal of life is. And so I thought it was fascinating in the sense that you have this story that's 5,000 years old, and this king who has everything one can think of, the emperor of the world. Mm-hmm. So you have everything at your fingertips. This is what we all want, right? We want the income or the wealth. We want the prestige, the fame. Mm-hmm. We want the beauty. We want the strength. As a king, you're strong. And you want the intelligence, and so the king, he got it. And so the king has all these things, but when he finds out he's going to die soon, he says, these things don't really matter. They're all temporary by nature. My strength is temporary because as soon as I get old,
temporary by nature.
Temporary by nature. So, so we are, our strength is dwindling. Because we have to go to the gym. If we don't go to the gym, we get weaker. Yeah. If we don't do some type of exercise, we get weaker. When we don't take proper care about what we put in our bodies, yes, our beauty diminishes. Yes. If we're not always,
some age gracefully, but yes,
yeah, for the most part.
But for the most part, you understand.
Yes,
I understand.
So for the most part, if we're not studying, the mind becomes,
you forget.
You lose what you don't use.
It's a fact.
And so this ability, this fame, when we're not doing things that develop, some type of recognition, then we become infamous. So this position,
right?
Yeah.
Who was that? What did they do?
Yeah. So we're always trying to. We have to act on all these different opulences or these different qualities,
yeah,
or they'll dwindle. So the king understood. He says these things are dwindling anyway. Mm-hmm. He says, so let me just go off in seclusion and just die in peace. And so he decides, yes, I'm going to the forest and I'm going to die there. But to his surprise, he wasn't alone. And so those individuals, those thousands of beings that came there, said what you are about to hear is going to transform your entire understanding of how life works. And death is that knock. Death is that call. It's like, oh, so I guess getting likes on Instagram or Facebook is not the goal of life. it's like, oh, it's so, having all these sexual partners is not the goal of life. Oh, drinking, getting, winning awards or some type of drinking contest, or getting so intoxicated that you can barely function. So that's not the goal of life. So it's like, so the king is understanding that everything that I had doesn't matter, and death is that reminder. It's like a wake up call. It is a wake up call, because like one day you won't wake up.
It's true.
And so so sometimes these stories help us get a little more sober.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so, because if not, if we don't have stories like this, if we don't have examples, then we'll stay in an intoxicated state in which we feel that, everything is just.
Some may say the old proverb, because we remain in ignorance, we think it's bliss. Because we don't have that sobering knock to wake us up from our dreaming state, where we're thinking, oh, this is such a wonderful experience. I'm having so much fun. Look at all the fame and prestige and all the friends and the money and all these things that I have. We forget the reality in terms of what life is truly meant, in terms of the goal of life. It's interesting how we get this knock. Some people take it seriously, actually, when they get that knock. Sometimes they're fortunate where they have an illness that, or you could say something like a heart attack or a stroke or something, right? That gives them that awakening, where their mind is thinking, their heart, it's all in line that, you know what, I really need to straighten up and fly right, for lack of better words. And some people do take it seriously. They change their life, and it's like they get a second chance. Like there's another story about Ajamil, in the Vedas as well. I won't go too deep in that story, but in short, he got a second chance. He was about to die. Death was coming for him, literally. And somehow or other, he was able to get a second chance. And so after that experience, where he was able to live and survive, he lived his life differently, in a more of a, we'll just say, saintly way, in a good way, where he was not engaged in, he changed the values, his values had changed. What he thought was important is no longer important. He focused on things that are more spiritual, you can say. And so it reminds me of a great teacher, your mom's teacher, B.T. Swami, and how he mentions dying before dying. And when I thought about, or when you think about it, it's like, you know what? That sounds interesting. What is meant by dying before dying? And you see, it's really about preparing yourself for that transition. And a lot of times, depending on our upbringing, we're never really taught much about death in terms of what is it, what does it mean, what happens after one gives up their current state, their current body. Sometimes we hear there's two options, either heaven or hell. But not much detail is given. And so there's that fear of just not knowing. And thus death is a very frightening experience for many, maybe all of us, And so if there is some way in which one can acquire more knowledge about that dying process, what happens, after we give up our bodies, I think as human beings we might even look at our current life and how we interact with family and our value system. We may even change things there and live our lives with more intention and not just through the motions as you were mentioning a little earlier. And we might in fact find or get more out of life if we're living with intention than if we're just kind of drifting or going through the motion kind of a thing. So I'm not quite sure how deep we can go on this, but
I mean, this is a 4-part series. You can go.
but yeah, I'll leave it at that. You know, that if we can have a better understanding of death, what it means, what happens, you know, after we give up this body, I think many of us will not have the same fear or the same thought about death that we've had, again, prior to not knowing much about it.
Yeah, we will have a different perspective.
Right.
I was, as you were talking about B.T. Swami, dying to live, and it's a unique concept.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, die to live. What does that even mean? But I think there's another yoga teacher who talks about disconnecting to connect.
Disconnecting to connect. Okay.
And so what that means is he was saying that he was traveling doing pilgrimage, and he met some very advanced person in wisdom, and he said he told him that he was told by this wise person, you have to disconnect in 1 year, disconnect for a month, and in 1 month disconnect for a week, and in 1 week in 1 week 1 month disconnect for a week, and 1 week disconnect for a day, and 1 day disconnect for an hour. And he says you're disconnecting to reconnect, because quite often when we disconnect from certain things, certain realities or certain perspectives, we gain new perspectives.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so I'll say it again. So we said disconnect. So in 1 year, disconnect for a month. In 1 month, disconnect for a week. In 1 week, disconnect for a day. In 1 day, disconnect for an hour. Mm-hmm. And so in that process, we're able to gain new insight. We're able to gain new perspective. And so it is when we're able to do that, our value system, our morality, our different elements and the things, or different characteristics that we have learned by being so mechanical, those change.
Yes.
Because they can no longer operate in the same space because a new perspective is given.
Giving up an old perspective for a much better new perspective.
I saw this Instagram post where you saw the bottom of a pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which was like a square. From the bottom of the pyramid is a square.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so from the side, you see like, a triangle.
Right.
And so and then it showed like the top, so one image of the square, one image of the triangle, and one image of the top where you can see kind of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it was saying that our realities are based on our perspectives.
Yes.
And I thought that was like mind blowing, because one person could say, no, this is just a triangle. Other person said, no, this is a square.
It reminds me of how there were 4 individuals that were asked to describe an elephant. and one person touching and they're blind. 4 people who are blind. One person is touching the leg, one person is touching the trunk, nose of the elephant, other person is touching the ear, another person touching the side of the elephant. And they're all coming back with 4 different explanations or descriptions, because their perspective is what they're touching and feeling and experiencing. Yeah.
And so I was thinking, this is literally our reality, is that we're only perceiving something based on our current vision, our current understanding of something. Until that understanding changes, we will operate in the same, fashion.
NLP discusses this point as well. They say that it's pointed out that the way we view the world is literally within our own mind. It may not necessarily be the reality, but because again, through our senses, how we're taking in information and how we're deciphering everything and understanding everything, and then we view the world based off of that perspective, that vision. But again, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the reality. So it's just like someone looking out at the world and their glasses, their lenses are dirty. If they're smudged with, oil, grease, whatever, it will give a distorted reality.
Yeah.
And then someone may say, I could say something to the effect that, oh no, this looks smudged, smeared, like distorted in some way, shape, or form. And someone else will say, well, no, it's not the case. It's not fuzzy, It's actually very crisp and sharp. That's only because my glasses are smudged, So my perspective, the way I look at the world, is going to be completely different than what someone else will see.
It's funny because you bring the lenses up. When we started, I saw you in a smudged way. You look distorted. So I was like, oh, it's my glasses. I got some stuff on it.
And the optician in me looking at you as you clean your glasses with your tie.
I know. I should be doing this.
You're scratching your lenses, man. I was like, don't do it. Your anti-reflective coating is screaming right now.
But yeah, it's that if we do not take the time to see, hey, are our lenses dirty? Are they smudged? Are they scratched? Is there a film on there? Is it a tint? Am I only seeing black and white? Am I seeing in pink, purple?
Or you can say, am I just simply reacting? Another way of looking at it is, am I simply reacting off of maybe someone acting towards me a certain way, and I'm simply reacting to whatever the stimuli is in my environment? Am I, based off of what I'm learning or receiving in my subconscious? You know how earlier on, sessions ago, I mentioned how I would play a lecture from B.T. Swami, and then as I'm going to sleep, I'm listening to it, even though I'm sleeping, but then I wake up and I'm like recalling so many different points from the lecture. So if we have the TV on, or if we have the radio on, even though we're doing something else, but I hear something in the background, and that information comes in and says, hey, you need to buy this color vehicle, or you need to buy this type of outfit or clothing, these shoes, or whatever it may be, and that way you can be happy, or you can get this person, or you can be more attractive, or whatever it may be. And then I go to the store, and I'm like, I'm missing something. I can't remember what it is on my list. Oh yeah, I need to get a pair of shoes, And it's not because I really needed that, but it's because I have become influenced. I allowed myself to be convinced or influenced by some advertisement that actually came into my subconscious. So to what degree am I can kind of add this in, am I living with purpose or intention, or am I simply just influenced by my environment, by others around me, so on and so forth? So
it was really nice that you mentioned that what we hear and how it becomes programmed into us. And sometimes if what we're hearing is not the most beneficial, then it can have long-term side effects. I often hear, and I don't know if you all have heard the same thing, that when someone is contemplating on doing something stupid, they'll say, YOLO, you only live once. Do it.
I didn't know that.
You
I
only
haven't done anything stupid yet.
Hey, that's because you're around not too many stupid people. So
My mama says stupid is what stupid does.
so you hear people say, "Yo, just do it," just jump off, just and it's like, no, this is not. This human form of life is very special. Don't waste it trying to jump from one building to another, thinking that you got spider webs, Spider-Man, this is not the best use of time.
Yeah.
And it's that usage of time that a lot of people that are on their deathbed recognize. I regret that I did not utilize my time properly.
But I didn't spend time with this person.
Yeah.
That I didn't tell this person how much I loved them and cared about them.
So one of the things that I remember my friend saying, she was saying that spending time is much more important, like with a person, like quality time is much more important than things that she used to do to waste time.
Yeah.
And the relationships that we have with others, the time we spend with others is a better investment.
Yes. Yeah.
Trying to really be there for them. And I'll give another story. This is around the same time, several years before the king was cursed. There was what considered the largest war in history. And before this war began, there was a really deep conversation between two personalities. And one was considered one of the greatest bowmen. Time is precious and your words, yes. And so one of the greatest bowmen he wanted to see who was on the other side of the battlefield, who was going to be, who he was going to be fighting. And so he asked his best friend, please, who was also his charioteer, please bring me to the middle of the field so I can see who I'm going to have to kill. In essence, Right. And so so his friend says, okay, brings him to the middle of the field. And his name is Arjuna. He says, this over here is my teacher, is my grandfather, my friends, these are my relatives. These are all people. They're not going to leave this battlefield. Like they're the warrior's bed is the battlefield.
Yeah.
That's the warrior's bed. Yeah. That's where they sleep.
That's true.
And so understanding that death was inevitable, Arjuna says, this is not fair. We shouldn't. War shouldn't happen. But his friend tells him, friend Krishna tells him, death is inevitable. Yeah. And so one of the things that is mentioned is that time is associated with death. because through time, our countdown.
It's the final countdown.
Yeah, the days of our life, you know. So I remember. Side note: I remember watching. I used to watch the soap opera Days of Our Life, and so for those who have never watched it, it's like this time glass that you know that slowly draining sand. Hourglass, and so this is literally we all have. Like if we look at each other, there's a little hourglass over our head. You know, we don't know what that time is, but it's happening.
It's ticking. Yeah.
It's ticking, and so Arjuna's told like, hey, what are you disturbed about? They're dead anyway, through the factor of time.
Yeah.
And so why are you sad? And he says, "These are my friends. If we take their life, then their family, their lives, will be, you know, they'll be lost.
Right.
And when the wives are lost, then there's no proper male figure in the house, and then therefore the sons or the daughters are brought up in such a way where there's no proper etiquette, so they lead a life in which is kind of degenerate life."
Yes.
And so Arjuna's creating all these valid points, you know, and he says, better. Nick says, "I enjoyed you guys' perspective." Okay, all right, Nick, take care. So Arjuna is creating all these objections, and he's saying, "Let me just go to the forest and just meditate, just live that way.
I don't want to fight.
I don't want to fight.
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
I'm a lover, not a fighter."
I want to go straight to the forest and meditate.
And so Krishna tells him, because of your mentality, you will not feel comfortable in the forest. And so, therefore, while you're in the forest, your mind is not going to be concentrating because you'll be thinking about
That.
all this injustice that happened.
Yes.
So what is your duty? So this conversation on this battlefield was about duty. You know, it's about what is most valuable in life. Since we're all dying, what is the most valuable thing we can do? And so, in a sense, we're all on the battlefield in one way, shape, or form. We may not have weapons in the sense of swords or, you know.
But there's things that are always competing for our time. Like we have a holidays coming up, for example. And, you know, not only holidays, but birthdays are coming up too.
Yeah.
And so, yes, you know, we may celebrate someone's birthday on that specific day that they were born. But why can't we celebrate their life, their existence, every day by having meaningful, you know, interaction with them? You know, carving time out of our life, spend time, quality time with that person. And we'll just speak of keeping in proper communication, again, with other family members and friends and so forth. Again, just to have that quality time, because we have so many things competing or fighting for our 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So it's like, in order to get everything accomplished, we really have to, again, be intentional, and we have to really, in one sense, kind of, I don't want to say schedule everything out, because I don't want it to sound mechanical.
Right.
But we definitely have to make an effort to make time, to literally spend time with those who mean a lot to us, and of course to address those things that are important or that have value, significance, you know, instead of just chasing after our pacifiers, for lack of a better word, our little comforts, you know.
And these comforts.
You can't hide behind them too long.
Yeah, and they become, after a while, whether we know it or not, these comforts give us discomfort. Sooner or later.
They prove themselves unfit. You know, some people, they may think, oh, let me just hide behind the TV. Me, let me just binge watch, you know, Netflix or whatever it may be, or some of us may be emotional eaters and I'm just gonna eat myself happy, or whatever it may be. But comfort foods.
Yeah.
But before you know it, again, when we get that knock, that comfort food is not gonna comfort us, you know, at that critical time when we need to pass that test. So,
you know, and I was thinking about this whole comfort food and idea, and it's often those comfort foods that down the road lead to our discomfort. And it's now the doctor saying, yeah, you shouldn't have this again.
Yeah.
And if you do, it'll be even worse for you.
Yeah.
And so there are literally people that I know, that I spoke with, that I hear about, that they've been given a recommended diet that's helpful. And they've been suggested to not take these certain things. But because there is a pill that will mitigate the pain or the suffering or the symptoms, it's like, I can still do that because I got a pill. And what we don't know is happening is that the situation we're creating for ourselves. Because not anybody else.
Yeah.
It's not anybody else. We're creating for ourselves, and then when we get to that point where we're in the hospital, it's like, why did this happen? How could this happen? Now we're confused. We're baffled.
Yeah.
Now death is
knocking.
Yeah, now we're on some form of life support.
Yeah.
Because we didn't support our own life.
Yeah. And we put too much faith in the wrong thing.
Yes.
Like you gave the example of the pill.
Yeah.
It could be like an antidote, for example. And no one in their right mind is going to drink poison. We all know if I drink poison, it will have a fatal consequence. But you only live once, and you got this little pill.
Yeah.
You know, the anti-venom or the antidote, you know. And so we put so much faith into, and again, I'm not trying to find fault or criticize, you know, whether it's medicines or anything of that nature, but we still mustn't lose focus of what's most important in life. Yes, if there's medications, if there's different pills that are there, if the doctor says take this medication and, you know, eat or take this diet, you know, do as the doctor instructs, right? But while we're doing that, still keep in mind that which is, you know, getting our priorities straight and really focus on that which is of great value or importance.
And
dying to live.
Dying to live.
As you mentioned earlier, so.
And there's a family member of mine who has been to the hospital several times. And a lot of it's because of the choices that they made with their body. But now, after the most recent incident, the perspective has shifted to, okay, now the things I was putting off, I need to do now, because I may not have the opportunity to to get my ducks in a row.
Mm.
And I think that's one of the things too that's kind of we all fall victim to it, but we think just a little bit more time before we get our ducks in a row.
We call that procrastination.
Procrastination.
Yes, we like to procrastinate.
We're good procrastinators.
Yeah. Oh, I can still catch up and make this up, even at the last moment. You know, doesn't work for everybody. It's like playing chicken with life. You know, it's like you go so far and then turn at the last minute to avoid the collision. So we like thrill, risk takers. You know, but we just don't know how to properly gamble. This is a gamble. We're gambling our time. We're gambling an opportunity. We're gambling, you know, so many different things. And yeah, sometimes we just don't know how to do it. Actually, we just don't know how to do it, really.
Then it's like, you know, like, who you hit?
Chicken.
You know.
So yeah, it's basically called procrastination or gambling. It's another form of gambling.
And so in life, we're taking all these risks, and any good investor knows risk to reward. But because we don't really know how to invest well in our own lives, we take high risk with low rewards.
Or no reward.
No reward, yeah. And
that's not a good deal.
it's a terrible deal, actually.
The odds are truly against you.
Stacked against. House wins.
Every time.
Every time house wins. You know? And it is this, and unfortunately, because there's no school for this, there's no educational system, this kind of conversation is not brought up in media.
No.
Then we are professional gamblers of our time, but we're losing.
All the time.
All the time.
So I guess that means we're losers.
We're losers. And so
I want to be a winner.
you gotta utilize your time more, better. You know, and so that's the thing. Like, we have to have conversations about this, because death is the only time that people are really listening.
Because it's uncomfortable.
It's extremely uncomfortable, disturbing, and so as we conclude, we realize that this topic is not the most palatable to hear. And it is something that people will be like, later, what are they talking about? Death. Death. So
boring.
You know, I my wife has a friend whose employer told her that if the subject matter in which they are doing is not fun or joyous, what's the point of talking about it? And this person is a multi-millionaire, so they just want to be happy. They don't anything that brings them down, anything that takes their attention away from their wealth or from the pursuit of happiness. Then I don't want to know about it. And so my wife's friend is like, she's an artist. You know, her position is creativity. And so sometimes creativity comes from uncomfortable things.
Of course. Yeah, always. Otherwise, you'll be doing the same thing over and over again. The same routine, it just becomes bland. So you have to spice up life.
Yeah.
You have to put some discomfort in there somewhere, and then you get a new perspective. You know, that's really the only time we get new ideas, really. Is when there is that discomfort, and then you get a new perspective, like, well, I can't solve it this way, the way that I always solve this problem. Now I got to look at it from a different angle, a different perspective. So discomfort is a good thing.
Yeah. So we'll get it ready to wrap up. Hopefully you all enjoyed this. Preeti says, make wise choices with time, right association. That's 100% correct. Next week, we will, it's actually Thanksgiving next week.
Gobble, gobble.
Go.
I guess they do that too.
So we will.
That's Friday.
Yeah. Black Friday.
Are we pausing on that day?
We're pausing that day.
Okay.
Pausing that
So don't look for us.
Yeah, don't look for us.
According to him, he said it's Black Friday.
Black Friday. So we'll be back the following Friday and do 3 or 4, which would be we can go into the death of the ego, and then
That and because I didn't want to do it at this time, but I think also this aspect of you have the soul, us as the soul, and then sometimes we hear how the body is described as like a vessel or vehicle, and that will bring in definitely the ego in there as well.
not the ego, the ego.
Thank you, ego. Sorry, I have to do better.
What side?
Enunciation. Ego.
All right. So until next time, flex.
Stay flex.
And if you like it, share it, comment, and just
Subscribe. Ring that bell.
all right.